Our video offering has been adopted by many of the large publishers we work with, from CNN Money to Fox to ABC to Reuters. And by working often within their player environment and on their video sections, we're seeing all of the behaviors of which sections of their audiences really want to watch videos and which segments of their audiences really want to stay in a text print world. So we're able to differentiate between those populations to a degree and make sure that when people come back to the site, we give them the right mix of content types as part of our recommendation package. So for us, the video offering is a hugely important offering, and it's part of a wider ecosystem of content recommendations and knowing how to get the right piece of content to each person in the format that is most appealing to them. We don't use straight demographics in terms of registration data and whether you're a man or a woman or age 10 or age 30. What we try and do is we try and see how much data do we first have about you personally. So if you're a repeat visitor to a publisher site and you come there over and over and over again every day, we do have a lot of data about the subject matters that you're interested in, the type of content that you like to go into, and we can use that information to find highly personalized links for you. For a lot of visitors to a publisher site, as you know, they don't come in over and over and over again. They come in once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month. So for that segment of the population, what you have to use as a good targeting mechanism is not information about them, but rather try to string the limited information you do have about them together with information about wider groups of people who have experienced similar content offerings as them and make bigger inferences. So in that sense, it's a little bit like having, you hear people talk about the social graph, right, in Facebook and in Twitter, who are the people you're connected to, who are your friends. We take a similar methodology to that, except that these are not your friends. They're nobody that you know. Rather, they're the people who tend to consume the same types of content offerings that you do. We plot you on that graph and we make some inferences about where you may want to go next. So we take a very data-driven approach to algorithmically figuring out what to target to you, but the amount of personalization depends on the amount of data. Our strategy is to a large extent the same as a publisher's strategy because we really are a toolkit for them. So we have a mobile offering. We invested in that over 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. We power content recommendations on the mobile optimized screen on smartphones for many of those same publishers that I mentioned to you beforehand, the CNNs and Foxes of the world, where when you get to the bottom of a small screen article on your mobile device, there the problem of navigation, of finding something next to read, is even harder than on the web. You don't have a left rail, you don't have a right rail. It's not easy to back up into the home page and go back through. So by us placing a few very targeted links to what you may want to consume next at the bottom of that experience, we're seeing very, very high engagement in mobile. So mobile, we kind of separate mobile out into different realms, as I think most people do, into the smartphone realm and the tablet realm. Tablet is really not the same experience at all. It's very different. And we have offerings that have been used and are growing very quickly in those areas. I think one of the underrated aspects of sharing that publishers are starting to pay more and more attention to is the actual titling of the piece of content. So people usually share content because the content is good, because it's meaningful, because it's interesting, because it's new, but that's only half the equation. The other half is once they share it, how do you make sure that the audiences who see that shared link will click on it? Then will actually come back through and consume that piece of content. And the titling that you use to represent your piece of content and the thumbnail, to some degree, making sure you have a thumbnail above that piece of content that will get pushed into a Facebook environment or into other areas. Using pieces of creative assets like that effectively is more and more important to make sure you get the bang for the buck of the sharing. There is we look at click-through rate on a site. We present links of content, recommended links, and we look at how many of those, what percentage of those get clicked. I think one of the things that have been ignored for a little bit is how does that kind of operation happen in a social environment. It's not enough to just get it shared. Of course, that's the first step, but the second is how do you make sure it's interesting and enticing enough that people will click back through to it once it has been shared. Different audiences and different people want different types of content at different times of the day on different devices. It probably goes without saying. I think a lot of people intuitively think that way, but people who are reading long-form articles about business in the middle of the workday generally don't want to click a video link. people who are leaning back on an iPad at 8 p.m. at night reading about lifestyle often do want to consume a piece of video and don't want to read a long article. So what we've been doing algorithmically is looking at those types of differences per person, per time of day, per device, and figuring out when somebody comes to the end of a piece of content, should we recommend to them a video? Should it be an article? Should it be a photo gallery? What type of content is important to them at that point in time? And mixing all of those approaches together to get the right type of content out to users to satisfy their curiosity at the right point.